Welcome to the 4 Pillars of Agile, the key to laying a successful Agile foundation. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to eat an elephant all in one bite? While we all may have heard the metaphor before and know that it's impossible, many organizations still try to take on Agile as an all-or-nothing initiative. They determine that you either are Agile or you're not Agile, or maybe you are lean but you're not lean. But in fact, we all know that that can't quite be true. In fact, most organizations take on Agile in a very incremental phase, or one bite at a time. There are many different topics and problems and things that need to be addressed before your organization could even consider adopting Agile. Here are a few examples. What do we do with regards to profitability or staff retention? A famous quote once read, "What happens if we train our employees and they all leave?" Someone else quickly responded, "What if we don't train them and they stay?" It's an opportunity for us to see that by taking advantage and taking the elephant one piece at a time, we can then learn how we can embrace and adopt Agile one step at a time. The key to doing this successfully is to ensure up front that you don't quit early. What many organizations face is as they implement Agile, they discover that it's hard, that it's not easy. It requires great cultural change. And sometimes that's just too much for an organization to bear, and they quit before they ever give Agile a fair chance. Many also feel like it's overwhelming. There's too many meetings, too many things to decide, too many roles. Today, instead of trying to take Agile on in one solid bite, we would like to take an opportunity to review with you the 4 key elements or pillars that are necessary in order for Agile to be implemented within your organization. The first pillar is culture. The second is organization. The third is process. And the fourth is sustainability. We're going to take an opportunity to step through each of these and discuss each one at greater length in order for you to better determine whether Agile is a good fit for your organization or company. With regard to culture, I once remember a trip to India where I learned the deep love that they have for passion, culture, arts, literature, dancing, movement, theater. And in discovering their passion and love for all these things, I quickly learned that different cultures necessarily embrace the same things that we embrace, many in different ways. The same is true with organizations embracing Agile. Although Agile is clearly explained through many books, videos, organizations, and conferences like the one you're attending now, Agile is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all model. Agile can be embraced differently, just as each of us are different. I was riding on my way to this session and learned from one of the drivers. He described us each as being a different automobile with a different fuel inside, although our outsides may be different colors, different body types, different fashions, and we all may have different features or different things that are excellent about us. In the inside, we all use the same fuel. Organizations are built the same way. We need to rely on that Agile fuel and figure out what fuels Agile within your organization. This is the culture that I'm referring to. It's important to have those interpersonal cultures and to understand ethnicity, race, religion, and treat everyone equally within your organization. Likewise, it's important for you to understand that within Agile, that we have certain things that need to be abided by in order for Agile to be a working method within the organization. Where does all this start? It obviously starts at the top with the executive and leadership team. They need to embrace and understand what benefits Agile is going to bring to the table and how that's going to impact them and the organization. The second is the organization. While we all might consider the organization to be a heavy number of wheels or cogs spinning in different directions, each piece of the organization is critical for the ultimate organization success. When implementing Agile, this is no different. The organization still needs to work together as a well-oiled machine. But one might point out that this particular cog may not be using Agile, or a different cog in the organization may be doing things differently than we are. It's important for us to maintain a micro focus on the part of the organization that is doing Agile first, and allow them to be successful and lead by example, thereby showing others how to implement Agile along the way. In fact, some of the best Agile implementations start with a spark of interest that turns into an idea that's then generated into an item or a concept that can be achieved through features on a roadmap. It's only at that point that the teams can take on those small bite-sized chunks called stories and deliver something of high value. Without organization of the work inside of your company, this will be impossible. Likewise, without organization of teams, Agile is heavily struggled with throughout organizations when they don't focus on the attention needed to keeping high-performing teams together. Many organizations feel when they do have a high-performing team that splitting that high-performing team into sub-teams or smaller teams would allow for that to spread throughout the organization and create additional high-performing teams, when in reality, breaking apart high-performing teams only creates lesser-performing teams and starts the whole Tuckman model of forming, storming, norming, and performing over again. We should focus on maintaining those high-performing teams, allowing them to practice Agile and be leading examples, and hand off those examples to other places in the organization so that they can be successful in their portion of the Agile implementation. The key is to organize the work and not the people. Let the people organize themselves in any way that they need to be successful. Keep high-performing teams together and focus your effort on organizing the work in such a way that the teams can swarm from one project to the next, achieving excellence and agility. In this example, we'd like to present to you the Agile Earned Value Timeline. Most organizations fail to focus on how the best approach is to organize the work, and in such, they quickly try to scale Agile or to jump to a larger portion of Agile, something larger than what they're typically doing today. Each timeline here represents a 5-year timeline. By starting all 5 Agile projects simultaneously at the same time, you'll see that you wouldn't have the ability to finish any of the 5 by the end of the 5-year period. In fact, you may only finish 4 and have the 5th one delivered late, in which case you're still at a $0 earned value revenue. Not very good. Using a more Agile approach, we can take on one project at a time with the same number of people and same number of teams and recognize earned value as it happens. For example, if we finish Project 1 a quarter of the way in, Project 2 near halfway, Project 3 3/4, and finally 4 at the end, Project 5 is still late, just as it was before. Project 4 is achieved at the same time, but we now have an opportunity to recognize revenue from Projects 1 through 3 that we didn't have before. As one of my Agile coaches put it, the opportunity is either we deliver nothing of value and deliver as much as we can at the end of the cycle, or we deliver incrementally and deliver some things of value along the way, but you wouldn't end up with an entire solution until the very end. Which one do you feel works better for you and your organization? In most cases, you'll find that the Agile approach is a better approach, and the approach that most organizations want to take. The key is to have the ability to explain this to leadership, that too many plates in motion could actually cause an Agile project to fail. A wise man in the Agile community once said, "Agile does not mean increased output. Agile embraces focusing on the correct outcome. We do this while producing as little output as possible. Agile organizations focus on producing the best possible outcome with as little output as possible." While I might be cheating, as I was the one who said that quote at a recent Agile conference, I can assure you it still holds true. Organizations today focus far too much attention on trying to produce as many widgets as possible. In fact, their entire funding model is designed around this mechanism. For example, if I were to bid on a project, one would ask me, how many different outputs am I expected to create? How many different things am I going to create? Widgets, protocols, how many different things am I going to do in order to solve one simple problem? They would approve the funding and allow me to get funded, and even if we said that it only required 4 of the 8 widgets to solve the problem, at the end when delivering the project, instead of focusing on the outcome in the 4 that were created, many organizations would simply focus on the 4 that are missing and feel like they may have been shortchanged or mishandled, when in actuality, it only required 4 to solve the problem. In essence, focusing on an issue, a problem, something that we're trying to solve, is a far better approach than focusing on a number of widgets we would create to solve that very same problem. We should even realize that less is more. More is not always the best solution. Focus on what we can do with as little as possible to achieve the best possible outcome and consumer satisfaction, which will then yield us the highest revenue. Next, we'd like to focus on process. While process may not seem like an intricate piece of the puzzle until you get started, process is actually one of the foundational pieces for delivery. Without having a sound process in place, it's going to be nearly impossible for you as an organization to embrace Agile concepts. Process adoption and adaptation is certainly not a one-size-fits-all. For example, if we were working inside of a company and were forced to select the process at one point, whether or not we wanted to do Scrum, or just basic Agile, or maybe Kanban or Lean, or any combination of any of those variables, it would be important for us to know when we got to the path, which path to select that would work best for our organization. Obviously, this is not a one-size-fits-all and creates many internal battles within the organization. When selecting a process, it's important to take the core Agile team that will foundationally be adopting Agile and be used as the example or benchmark, and by asking them which process helps them feel the most comfortable and most successful in what they're trying to implement. It's also critical for us when attempting Agile to focus on each path and make a decision based on a hybrid approach, meaning sometimes it may not be better to select one specific path, but take the best practices from multiple different Agile types and apply those within your organization, creating an Agile hybrid model. It's incredibly important for us to understand and know that most organizations follow this practice. Don't feel like you're the only one struggling to make that decision. In fact, no organization that I have ever represented or encountered through coaching does any one pure model. It's important for us to pay attention to the details, to focus on the things that are necessary in order for us to be successful, and take the opportunity to choose the correct path wisely. Finally, we should focus on sustainability. While many organizations struggle and have a hard time figuring out just the right amount of work to capture, whether in a 90-day release or in a one-year project, it's equally as important to focus on the amount of work that an individual can do in a single workday. Oftentimes, organizations try to spin too many projects at once or try to improve sustainability by having people maintain multiple focuses on multiple different projects at the same time. Dividing your time 23% to one project, 40% to another, is often considered a helpful way for you to have more projects going at once or to keep you less bored in the workspace, when in actuality, it's just a disguised form of context switching. Context switching is something that causes many organizations not only to come up short when it comes time to deliver, but it also forces organizations to often spend more than they need to in order to get any one single project done. It's important for us to focus on the capacity of individuals, the velocity of teams, and the ability of the organization to embrace Agile accordingly in order for them to have a working, successful model. Once you're certain you have all 4 pillars in place, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to research and figure out where you fall on the AgileDad 12-step program. This program was created by our company in order to help you recognize where you might be with regard to your Agile success within your organization. While this program is completely free for you and will be accessible through the IIL channels, it's important for you to take each step in review and see exactly which steps your organization has embraced and where there may be gaps that you would be able to fill in. For example, some groups may feel like doing a traditional daily stand-up in order to measure accountability, or having 2-week sprints or intervals is a great way for them to measure how they fall within the Agile process. The reality reveals that it is important for us not only to focus on those basic things, but also to focus on the better understanding of roles and rules, the better understanding of logic within a system, and the ability for executives to engage and understand exactly what's going on with regard to the Agile project. It's often helpful for them to have some type of dashboard or some type of reporting interface that they can check in regularly to see the state of work and know that nothing is getting left behind. This document's designed for all different types of companies, all different sizes of companies. It's an easy read, and I strongly encourage you to take an opportunity to take a look and see exactly how it might apply to your organization. With regard to an Agile coach, many ask me, is it necessary to have an Agile coach in order to be successful in the Agile world? My answer is, while it's not required, it certainly is helpful. An Agile coach brings many different skill sets to the table that may not be inherent in your organization, especially when you're just getting started. It's important for an Agile coach to focus on maybe what areas you need for improvement, as well as what areas you're doing well in, so that they can encourage and reinforce team behaviors. An Agile coach should be motivational, should help recharge the team, should help re-energize the team, and should do all that he or she can to motivate Agile teams to be successful and to take them to the next level. While once again it's not required, it certainly is encouraged for you on the path to take this into deep consideration and make sure that you allow both time and budgetary needs to bring a coach in if necessary. The question is, do you have what it takes? Are you prepared to implement Agile? It takes time. It takes honesty. I heard another famous quote that reads, if your company doesn't like truth and honesty, it's probably not going to like Agile. You have to be honest in your communication and how you're going to deal with problems, and sometimes the news isn't always good news. It's important to have a strong Scrum Master or Agile coach that will help you be transparent about these problems and discuss with leadership and other people throughout the organization how we might tackle these problems and what initiatives we'll put in place to help ensure that Agile can be a success within your organization. What might be the most critical element to Agile success, or success in general, is trust throughout the organization. I once heard an executive explain that trust is something that you earn, that it's not something that's necessarily given, and that once you earn that trust, that from that point forward, they would be supportive of whatever your initiative is. In this case, I wholeheartedly disagree. Trust should be something that you naturally take on as opposed to having to earn that trust. And then as soon as that trust is given, you should certainly respect that trust and use that trust as needed in order to build success within your Agile projects. Trust is actually a tool. Whether you're building something Agile or building something not Agile, you should always have a foundation of trust. Another way that I heard this is you should never feel bad about identifying something that may be going wrong on a project, or perhaps pointing out an alternative solution that everyone might not agree upon. Each of these things are incredibly important, and without trust as a foundation, it would be very difficult for you to be successful. Make certain when you're bringing on any qualified Agile coach that trust is at the foundation of what they teach and how they approach solving problems. In turn, we need to make sure we're prepared when it's time for us to scale. Many organizations up front choose to scale Agile or to scale projects to a much larger focus than what they originally were intended. Many organizations take on too many projects at once, overrunning their cost and overrunning their budget and having to stretch those projects out over multiple years. While it's important for us to scale, and while scaled Agile is certainly something that we should consider, it's also mission critical for us to ensure that when scaling that we're doing it one step at a time, that we're focused on the outcome and not the output, and that we're achieving Agile excellence through scaling minimally as needed. In order for Agile to be successful, organizations must embrace and actually encourage failure as an option. While that may sound quite crazy, many people say fail early, fail often. That failing early provides you with an opportunity to inspect and adapt and improve and work towards an end solution that works more effectively or efficiently within your organization. Elon Musk once said, "Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you simply are not innovating enough." The truth is, without failure, there is no innovation, and without innovation, there is no future for any product or project that we're working on. Teams and organizations need to understand the concept of shu-ha-ri, that it's important for us to crawl before we walk or run, that it's important for us to take incremental steps towards success. Not one inventor that I've ever known has ever been successful on their first and only try. It's important for us to take on trying and trying again to achieve success with regard to Agile or any other product or project we might be working on. It's also critical for us when vetting out an Agile coach to make certain that they consider failure as an option and make sure that this is culturally embedded within your organization in order for you to achieve that success. In review, the 4 pillars: culture, organization, process, and sustainability give us the tools needed in order for us to achieve success on Agile projects. If we focus on each one individually and build within our organization upon this foundation, the odds of us being successful within our Agile implementation are greatly enhanced, and we have the ability to succeed using Agile the first time out. When do you start? As soon as you can. Choose a project that you feel would be a good fit. Give it a shot. Take a chance and have the right roles identified. Eliminate technical debt when necessary. And make sure you take an opportunity to track your progress and compare to what you've done in the past. Take a moment to download the 12-step program to Agile Success. Take a look and review where you are and decide how far down the path of success are you and where you might be able to insert additional strategies or additional tools to help you and your organization be successful with your implementation of Agile. On behalf of IIL, all of our friends here, and everyone who made this possible, we'd like to say thank you. We encourage you to take a moment to review any other presentations at this conference and any other Agile materials that you might need in order to help you sustain the 4 pillars of Agile and have Agile excellence within your organization. Thanks, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.